Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I have recorded a video in my office and everything. I am finally back and settled in for my trip to Scotland, to the UK. I went to London as well. If you didn't see my previous video, I will link that below. I literally flew all the way to Scotland just to surprise one of my subscribers, and it was amazing. If you didn't see the video, I really recommend watching it. I know it's different from what I normally do, but it turned out so good. It was such a cool experience. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Timmothy Pitzen, who has been on my list to talk about for a long time. I have a really long, just ongoing list of cases that I want to cover and just things that have been requested. I get so many requests, you guys would be mind blown by my request inbox. But Timmothy Pitzen has been one of those names that's just been on my list and I've been meaning to get to. And so I had it on the calendar for May actually. And then recently there was a potential break in the case and it turned out to be a major disappointment, which I'm going to talk about that. And so you may have seen this name in the media recently. So I decided to do the video as soon as I got back. In fact, I was going to just film it when I was in London. Like one of the nights I was sitting there and I was so excited about this break and I thought it was really going to turn out good. And I was like, I was so pumped, like really excited. I was checking Twitter, like constantly refreshing it, waiting for updates on the story. And I was like, if this turns out to be legit, I'm going to literally film here because I was so excited and I just dropped my phone. And yes, it turned out to be a major disappointment. If you have any familiarity with this case, you probably know what I'm talking about. But as always, before we get into this Where Is video, we have another Where Is campaign. I wanted to let you guys know that we are now over $40,000 raised for Thorn, and the last campaign blew me out of the water. You guys really came out for that one, and thank you guys to everyone who's donated or bought a shirt. And I have even more ways that you can get involved with Thorn now, so I'm excited to tell you about them. But first, as always, we have a subscriber design. This is limited edition and will only run until the next Where Is video comes out. This was made by Kat. I thought it was so cute and really kind of played off of Thorn and their mission to protect the rose, which is the children. So this design is available and 100% of the profit from it will be going directly to Thorn, as well as the permanent design, which will always be available on my website, no matter the time of the year, the day, the month, anything. That will be available 100% of the time for you guys, and everything from that will go to Thorn as well. Now I have one more way that you can give back to Thorn, and that is by purchasing a shirt right through their website with a specific link, which will track it right back to our Where Is campaign. So if you want official Thorn merch versus like fan-made designs, you can still do that as well, and it'll still go into our grand total. And then as always, you can donate with the link below. Any amount is fine if you don't want a shirt. But I also wanted to let you guys know that today, if you're watching this April 16th, Thorn is going to be making a major announcement about a new initiative that they are working on to help in the efforts to protect children overall. And there'll be information on that in the description box. But now let's go ahead and jump into the disappearance of Timmothy Pitzen. So Timothy went missing in 2011, but to really understand this story, we have to go back before he was even born. His parents are James Pitzen and Amy Fry, and they actually met each other at a party and they hit it off really quickly, and they actually had a long distance relationship for the first year of their relationship, which many people out there know is very difficult. And Amy had actually just gotten out of a relationship. She was actually divorced, and this took a major toll on her, and she was seriously depressed. One thing you need to know about Amy is she is a very unbalanced person. But James really fell in love with Amy and was determined to get her to a better place mentally, emotionally, kind of bring her out of the darkness. And after a little while, they decided to get married. However, even though James had the intention of helping her and he has stated that their relationship was really good and he was this really positive person in her life, they did fight quite a bit. They mainly fought over their finances, but overall just kind of had an unhealthy relationship. But even with their issues, they stayed together. And in 2004, early 2004, she ended up getting pregnant. And on October 18th of 2004, Amy gave birth to their son, Timothy James Pitzen, in Aurora, Illinois. And having Timothy actually was a really positive thing for Amy. She truly loved being a mother and she really loved Timothy. Timothy. In a way, it really helped her depression, and she was making a conscious effort to work on her overall life and attitude because he was bringing so much joy to her that she just felt really uplifted and positive. And Timothy was described as being a major mama's boy and just a total sweetheart. And things were okay for a while, but her relationship was just not healthy at the end of the day. They were just not good for each other and seemed to be fighting a lot. And it seemed like her mental health was also affecting her marriage quite a bit. Things were just super up and down and rocky between them. And eventually Amy even threatened to divorce James, and James actually ended up finding out that Amy had gotten back together briefly with her previous husband. And apparently once James found this out, he got really upset. I mean, understandably, but he decided to threaten Amy with the idea of taking away her son. He basically said to her, "I will divorce you and I will take full custody of Timothy." And this was just absolutely terrifying to Amy. And I'm sure many of you can imagine that would be so hard. I mean, she was really attached to her son. He was the only light in her life, something that was just so positive in her life, and someone she really loved, probably the person she loved most in the entire world. So him threatening to take him really freaked her out. I think in a way she felt like Timothy was one of her only reasons for living. But she decided to stick it out as best she could. She thought it was best for Timothy if she was married, but things just continued to get worse. Then things got really bad on Wednesday, May 11th of 2011, when Timothy's father dropped him off at Greenman Elementary School in Aurora, Illinois. And at this point, Timothy was just finishing his first year in kindergarten. So he left the school, went and did his thing all day, came back to pick Timothy up, and he was told that he was picked up early by his mother. And not just like an hour or two early from school. She picked him up at 8:15 a.m., like an hour after James dropped him off. And obviously, your first thought is like, why did the school not notify James? Well, Amy told them that there was a family emergency, and that's why they were suddenly picking him up an hour early. So James thought this was pretty strange, but he decided, you know, if it was Amy, he's probably safe. So he just went home to see if they were there. And when he got there, they were not there. So he tried calling her and she didn't answer. So he actually went and drove to her work to see if anyone there knew where she was. And when he got there, he was informed that Amy had never showed up for work that day. And that is when he started to freak out. So he called Amy's parents and neither of them knew where she was. So he actually started to think that maybe because they had such a rocky relationship, she decided that she was angry at him for something. Like he couldn't quite figure out what it was, but maybe there was something that upset her. Maybe threatening divorce upset her. And he started thinking that maybe she just needed space. So she took Timothy somewhere just for the night. Again, he knows that Amy loves Timothy. She wouldn't harm him. So he feels somewhat okay. He continued to call her, but wasn't getting any answer. And he kind of just figured maybe she's like pissed at me and screening my calls. But after a while of this, he decided to just go ahead and file a missing persons report with the Aurora Police Department. They immediately put him in the missing persons database, but they actually didn't release an Amber Alert because they didn't see this as an emergency. They figured that Timothy was with his mom, and so they didn't see the need to frighten everybody. So then on May 13th, Amy actually called her mom and told her that she and Timothy were safe. She also called her husband's brother and told him the same thing. But when she was talking to him, she mentioned that Timothy belonged to her, which kind of raised a red flag for him. Cell phone records indicated that the calls were made from an area northwest of Sterling, Route 40, which is about an hour and a half west of Aurora where they lived. So 3 days passed. You know, James is very nervous at this point and he has not heard from Amy at all. He has no idea where his son is, and he's sitting at home when he hears a knock on the door. And it was the police, and they were actually there to inform him that Amy had been found dead at the Rockford Inn Hotel. This is a hotel in Rockford, which is about an hour northeast of Sterling, and that's where the phone calls were made. And sadly, Amy had taken her own life, and it kind of made sense because she was so depressed. She had, you know, this history of depression and mental illness, and she had been known for attempting suicide a few other times. At 12:30 p.m. on May 14th, her body was found by a hotel maid. She was found with a note that hotel staff found, and it basically was apologizing for this situation that she created, this mess, and saying that Timothy was with people who would be keeping him safe and that he would not be found. I know, pretty crazy story. Now, she ended up sending these letters to her mother, James, and one of her best friends saying the same thing, that she was sorry and that Timothy was safe with other people and would not be found. They did find a knife at the crime scene, and the only blood that was on on the knife was Amy's blood. So it's not like Timothy's blood was anywhere on that. So obviously the first thing police are gonna do is try to put together an image of what had happened in the days leading up to Timothy actually disappearing, or this drop off, or whatever happened. They figured out that after picking her son up from school, Amy went to a car repair shop and dropped her car off. Then an employee of this shop actually drove her and Timothy to a zoo, the Brookfield Zoo. And after spending the day at the zoo, they returned to the repair shop around 3 p.m. and she picked up her car. After she picked up the car, they found out that she took Timothy to a water park. So after this, she ends up taking him on kind of like this weird 3-day vacation. She ends up taking him to this really cool water park. Apparently, Timothy really liked water parks, so he really would enjoy something like this. After this, Amy drove her son up north, up the coast of Lake Michigan, to a resort called the Key Lime Cove in Illinois, where they stayed the night. So after they spent the night at the Key Lime Cove Resort, they drove northwest to the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. And they have surveillance footage of the two of them when they were at the Key Lime Cove Resort as well as the Kalahari Resort. And nothing from this footage indicates any type of fear or danger or stress. They don't look different. They look completely normal. Timothy doesn't look upset. So to police, this looks like completely normal, which makes it even more confusing. So the next morning, they checked out of the Kalahari Resort and drove south to Sterling, Illinois. And this is where she made those phone calls to her parents and to James's brother. Later that day at 7:25 p.m., Amy was seen on security cameras at the Family Dollar store in Winnebago, which is an hour northeast of Sterling. And when she was at the store, she purchased a pen, note paper, and envelopes. But this time, Timothy was not with her. At 8 p.m., she was sighted at the Sullivan's food store in Winnebago buying milk. And again, she did not have Timothy with her. Then at 11:15, she checked into the Rockford Inn Hotel in Rockford, which is 20 minutes east of Winnebago, where she was seen at the dollar store and the grocery store. So keep in mind, the time that she was seen at the grocery store to the time that she checked into the hotel was over 3 hours, and the hotel was only 20 minutes from the grocery store. So what was she doing for those 3 hours? So it was sometime that night or the next morning maybe that Amy took her own life. Now what's interesting is Amy had actually made the trip up to Rockford twice before this particular time. So it seemed like she was planning something, maybe was meeting with someone. Her family said that she knew no one there. None of her friends had any idea why she would be in Rockford. And James didn't know why at all. It didn't make any sense. This was a completely random place for her to be. So this shows us that Amy was likely planning this for a long time. She probably had this plan in motion for a while. And what makes her case even more believable, because, you know, obviously when you first hear this without knowing all the details, like at first I thought that she did something. Like at first when I heard this case, I figured the mom probably did something to the son. But I really think it's more likely that she actually did give him to somebody and there was some type of illegal adoption going on, because they looked at her financial records and they found out that she had bought toys and clothes for Timothy right like the day before he went missing or she killed herself. Timothy also had a backpack with him originally, and the backpack has never been found. Amy's car was found parked in the parking lot of the Rockford Inn, and when it was searched, they weren't able to locate any of Timothy's things, including his car seat. So it almost seemed like he was handed off. And this made the police start to think that Timothy really was alive and was really with somebody else. But after doing a bit more investigating, they found out that the car seat actually wasn't in the car ever, because Timothy was with his grandma right before this, and she had the car seat in her car and she just forgot to give it back, which happens a lot. So she took him without a car seat. But the toys, the clothes, the backpack, everything else was gone. I mean, there was no trace of Timothy. So when investigators started to look at her car, they noticed that it was really, really dirty, and there were actually some weeds like stuck underneath the bumper, up underneath the wheels. And they started to figure out that it seemed like she drove somewhere really dirty, like definitely not on a gravel road, a dirt road, and may have even backed up or driven in a field, which may have been somewhere where she did a handoff with somebody. So they did some forensic testing on her car, and they found out that the road that she was on at some point was treated with glass marking beads, which are often put in a line to help with reflection at night. They noticed that the grass or the weeds weren't cut, so they think, again, that she was in the middle of nowhere, and they think from the type of grass that it may have been near a pond. On August 11th, the police announced that they actually found a bit of blood in the car that belonged to Timothy, but people have pointed out, like, it wasn't a lot of blood. It could have been literally a scratch or a bloody nose or something. Kids bleed a lot. A couple months later, November 18th of 2011, police released the footage of Amy at the resorts. All of the clothes that she's wearing in the resort footage, as well as the surveillance footage at the stores, none of that has been located. Like, it wasn't found in her room, it wasn't found in her car, so her clothes were just gone. It almost seemed like she gave her clothes to somebody. So in the first year, there were a couple tips of people who thought they saw Timothy, but they all led nowhere. They weren't actually legitimate tips. But then 2 years later, in 2013, they ended up finding Amy's cell phone, which was a pretty big discovery. It was actually found about an hour west from the Rockford hotel that she was staying in, and despite this sounding like a big deal, this actually led to nothing. She was probably smart enough to delete anything that would explain where Timothy was. On May 9th of 2014, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed shot of Timothy showing what he would look like around age 9. And then about a year later, NCMEC released another age-progressed photo of Timothy showing how he would look at age 10. But even though they haven't had much luck over the years, Timothy's family has remained really, really hopeful about finding him. They do believe that he's alive, and they do things in their community to keep the spirit of Timothy alive and the need to search for him going. On his birthday every year, his family plants trees in his honor, and they get a bunch of cards for him. And his old school even made a little garden for him dedicated to Timothy. April 3rd of 2019, a woman in Newport, Kentucky actually spotted a teenager walking alone in the streets, running across a bridge over the Ohio River. And he was acting kind of weird, so she ended up asking who he was or if he needed help. And this boy told her that he was Timmothy Pitzen and that he had been held by two men that were built like bodybuilders for 7 years, and he had just escaped from them. Obviously, when this news broke, everyone freaked out. I was so excited. I was so hopeful. Although it didn't make complete sense, because I was thinking, like, why would his mom have left him with kidnappers? Or maybe she got fooled into something. I don't know. My mind was going all over the place when this was going on, because it took 24 to 48 hours to get the DNA test back to see if this was actually Timothy. The woman who found him did note that this boy looked cold and scared and bruised up, just looked like someone who had been through some shit. So he was actually brought to the hospital.
Hamilton County Police Dispatch.
Hello, Hamilton County. It's Campbell. I got some information I need to pass on.
All right. What's the address to start with?
Well, it's a little confusing, actually. I don't know if you have a supervisor you may speak to or not. It's about a missing child, possible abduction case.
Okay. You got a
sergeant on duty. No, not yet. We're going to talk with teletype. I'll just give you a heads up what it is. So we had this child who said he ran away. He said he was kidnapped. And we found it. It looks like back in 2011 he was kidnapped or abducted. I'm not quite sure what the situation is. I'll let you guys Google it and decipher from your own information there. I didn't hear anybody say anything. The last name is Pitzen, P-I-T-Z-E-N. First name is Timothy. If you Google it, it'll just pop right up.
Okay.
We got him at the hospital right now. He's out with the detectives, but he said that he escaped from two subjects. The last time he saw him was at a Red Roof Inn. He doesn't know where that was at, but I'm assuming you have some in your area?
I've got 3.
Okay, well, I guess you're a good shot at it then, because he was found in Newport. So if you want to have them start checking Red Roof Inns, we've got a description of the subjects. We do not have a vehicle description. I'm not sure if you want to send officers, maybe you can talk to the... Is there a vehicle description now?
How old is it? Is he now white, black, Hispanic? How old is this kid?
He's 14 now. If you Google it, it'll pop right up for you with all his information.
Okay.
101804. Timothy is spelled with, I don't know if the hit actually shows it, but it should have 2 M's. So Timothy Pitzen, P-I-T-Z-E-N. But I want to give you the information mostly about the abductors in case they want to go ahead and run through the lots of the Red Roof Inns or talk to clerks. And we'll get an attempt to locate out the broadcast as soon as possible.
Okay, let's see. Out of Wisconsin?
Yep, that's him.
Okay. All right, so...
His mother was last found in Illinois, so it's a big to-do there, so...
So he doesn't know this was a stranger abduction?
Well, he's been gone for 7 years, so they're still talking to him. Right now, all we're trying to do, we're just trying to find out if maybe the abductors are still in any lots of the Red Roof Inn. That's why we're calling you all and all the other surrounding counties.
All right. So
if you have 3 of them, we're going to give you all the information we have.
So, and did he get there in another car, or do you guys know?
Okay.
He got to the hospital.
This is the only thing we're trying to do right now is send officers as quick as possible to Red Roof Inn. We have very limited information.
Okay. I didn't know how he showed up at the hospital. That's all I was asking. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. All right.
This is a really incredible story that we're about to tell you about right now, because tonight, a possible break in the case of a kidnapped child. Police are investigating after a teenager who identified himself as a missing Illinois boy told police that he just escaped from his kidnappers and ran for hours until he was found. The boy says he is Timothy Pitzen.
A boy was leaning against one of my neighbor's cars that we've been having some times here with crime here. So I called her to tell her that, hey, let's look out here. And there was a boy standing there that I thought was actually going to rob her car. Took the picture in case he did something and ran off. I didn't know anything. There was actually a minor who her mother does not want her to be disclosed, and he called the police. He approached her.
His stomach hurt. He was tired, that he had been tossed around, and he didn't know where he was.
Yes, that is all correct. This is what she told me. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then did you see police come to pick up the boy?
Yes, I did. At the time, of course, I didn't know anything about him. I was confused. I thought maybe he had been jumped in our neighborhood or something. They didn't handcuff him. They did search him, and they pulled back his hoodie, and the left side of his face, I could see it looked like he might have slid on concrete or something.
At the hospital, he refused to do any type of fingerprints, which is a major red flag. And this boy literally told them that his birthday was October 18th of 2004, literally Timothy's birthday. So they finally sent people from the FBI to go conduct a DNA test on him. And we were all waiting around to see the results of that test. And finally it came in that this was not Timothy Pitzen. In fact, this was not even a boy. 23-year-old Brian Michael Rae. And he was actually released from the Belmont Correctional Institution in Ohio less than a month prior to this, after serving about 14 months on charges of burglary, 3rd-degree felony, vandalism, and 5th-degree felony. And the police basically said that, we're bummed out this isn't Timothy, but we're not giving up hope on Timothy's case.
A stunning twist in the case of a missing Illinois boy, one day after police thought they'd found him. The FBI saying a DNA test proving the person who showed up in a Kentucky neighborhood Wednesday is not Timothy Pitzen. Police identifying him as 23-year-old Brian Rae, an ex-convict from Ohio who served time for burglary and vandalism.
It's kind of back to ground zero for us.
The Pitzen family disappointed but refusing to give up hope.
We know that you are out there somewhere, Tim, and we will never stop looking for you, praying for you, and loving you.
And if anything, this was good because it reignited interest in Timothy's case. Although it's so frustrating. I was so livid about this. I'm sure this other person has a lot of issues. He did say that the reason he did this, which it's hard to confirm. I'm sure he may not be telling the truth, but he did say that he wanted someone to love him the way Timothy's father loves him. So Brian did end up getting charged with making false statements to the FBI, and he could get up to 8 years. And here is him saying sorry to Timothy's family for getting their hopes up for no reason.
Tonight, a renewed sense of hope and a plea from a father.
He's alive somewhere. I know he is. Probably in the middle of nowhere, being homeschooled someplace, just away from the media and TVs and new technology.
Last week, a man was found in Kentucky telling officers that his name was Timothy Pitzen, and he'd just run away from his kidnappers. After a DNA test indicated that he wasn't Timothy, police charged Brian Rae with making a false statement. According to a criminal complaint, Rae told investigators that he wished he had a father like Timothy's, because if he went missing, his father would just keep drinking.
But Timothy's father is still not giving up on him. He really feels like he could be out there still.
You can't give up hope. As soon as you give up hope, then what should I do? What, declare him dead? No, I'm not going to do that.
I feel like there's a really good chance his mom really did just put him in different care, which is so strange. Like, we don't really know the reason why. It doesn't seem like she really explained this well at all. She just said sorry and he's gone. Didn't say why she did it, didn't explain, but maybe she was really worried that the dad really was gonna somehow get custody of him. Maybe James is secretly abusive towards him, although there's no proof of that. So it's strange. Like, no one knows why she did this, or if this actually did happen, or if she concocted this whole story and Timothy's actually gone. I don't know. To me, I just have a gut feeling that Timothy really is out there. I think this was maybe some type of illegal adoption. There's a bunch of different theories about what could have happened, of course. There's a lot of theories that maybe his mom was involved in some type of cult and they convinced her to do this and take him as some type of weird sacrifice or something like that, some type of group. There's a specific cult in Wisconsin that has been kind of thrown around on the internet, which is legitimately a cult, but I don't think it has anything to do with this case. There's no proof or connection to that. I think the most likely scenario is she really did arrange an illegal adoption. For some reason, maybe someone couldn't adopt through the actual system and they did this kind of secretly, or it's someone she knows and trusts that we can't think of, or someone that no one else ever knew she had a relationship with. It's really, really hard to say. There have been theories that maybe he was adopted into an Amish community since she drove out in the middle of nowhere and stuff, but there's really not any proof for that either. So it's really one of those cases that just is mind-blowing, because you'd think eventually someone would see Timothy. Like, is he in school? Is he just going out into public? Does he ever go to the doctor? It seems like after a while, this person would show up, which I think does make it a bit more of a possibility that this will be solved one day, because at the end of the day, Timothy might find out that he has been secretly adopted out and everything. It's really hard to say at the end of the day. I mean, we have no idea, but I really don't think she would have hurt Timothy. It doesn't seem that way from how much she loved him and how he was the only good thing she had. And then buying the toys and the clothes really makes you think that she really did send him off all ready to go. She even bought him toothpaste. I don't know, it's a pretty fascinating case. It seems to me like she took him on this little joyride, this little adventure, so that he might have this good memory of his mom to look back on. It's just bizarre. I guess he was known to really like water parks, so maybe she figured that he would enjoy this last outing with her and think better of her, because obviously he's got to know that this happened. Like, he was old enough to know what was going on or to remember his life before this. It's not like he was a baby. So I don't know. It's so confusing. It's so complicated, but I do have faith that this one might be solved one day. Let's just hope so. Oh my gosh, I hope Timothy Pitzen is at least in good hands. Let me know what you guys think of this case, what your theories are. Let me know if you have anything I didn't mention. Be sure to hit the like button if you want to see more Where Is videos, and don't forget to subscribe on your way out if you're not already. Don't forget to check out those t-shirts. Remember, 100% of everything that is sold goes to Thorn. We don't make any money off of it. But that's it for me today, guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Where'd you go?